Hi, it's time for my October reading wrap up. Another stellar month of reading. But before I get into the books that I already read, I want to talk about something else. I'm currently reading The Dark Tower, Book 7, the last book in the Dark Tower series. And I'm wondering, have you ever had this situation where you're actually hoping to get sick so you could stay in bed and do nothing but read a book? That's kind of how I feel right now. I'm maybe a fourth of the way through the book. I'm hoping to finish it by the end of this month. Probably not going to happen. I'm savoring this, but I actually wish I just had a little flu, a little cold, maybe something that would justify staying in bed and doing nothing but reading this book so I could finish the Dark Tower series. The series has been spectacular. I read all the books in the series this year. Leave a comment down below. Let me know if you've read The Dark Tower. Let me know if you like the ending. I obviously didn't get to it yet, but I know it's controversial. Now, without further ado, let's talk about the books I actually finished in the month of October. There's been some amazing reads. Let's start out with a science fiction book. Ian M. Banks, Player of Games, Book 2, and the amazing, I can already say it after two books, amazing revelation that the Culture series has been for me. I really enjoyed Consider Fleabag, Book 1. I really enjoyed Player of Games, Book 2. It felt like a completely different book than Book 1. The shift in perspective in Player of Games also adds to the uniqueness of this read. In Book 1, Consider Fleabag, we're looking at the culture through the eyes of an outsider, someone who's actually fighting against culture. Not the case in Book 2. Player of Games puts us right into the middle of culture, kind of a typical person living in this utopian society that seems to work, but is there a cost to it? Are there some shady things happening at the fringes of this amazing society? So, anyway, this book was fabulous, really well written, fun at times, a great story, well paced, not too many moments where it slows down. There's some exposition. We're learning a lot about this culture, and I'm loving it. I really loved book two. As I did book one, I'd have to think about which one I actually liked more. Both of them were just fun reads, 5 stars for me. For sure, easy, easy, just an amazing series that I cannot wait to continue reading. I think Use of Weapons is book 3, so that's gonna probably I'm probably gonna pick that up before the end of the year. The second book I read this month was The Dispossessed by Ursula K. Le Guin, one of my favorite authors. And this was an amazing book. It's actually a reread for me. I did read it in the 90s, but much of it went over my head. It was a too difficult read for me at that time, maybe due to my age, life experiences, but also my English was not great when I read this book. So it was a wasted effort. Not so this time. Thankfully, now on the reread, I was able to really extract a lot more value from this book. Ursula K. Le Guin, like Ian M. Banks, has created a universe. So with Ian M. Banks, we have the culture. Here we have the Hainish universe. The Hainish cycle is the name for all of these books that Ursula K. Le Guin writes. And just like Ian M. Banks, you can pick out any book. You don't have to read them in any order, but it just so happens that The Dispossessed chronologically would be the first book to read in Hainish cycle. Reason for that, and it's clear here, our protagonist Shevek is a scientist who's developing technology that will prove useful in connecting this whole galaxy together. However, Shevek lives on a planet called Anaris. It's actually a moon to another planet. His parents, grandparents, 150 years ago, people escaped the planet of Uras in order to colonize this moon of Anaris, and no one has traveled back. And now these two worlds that are populated by the same people are essentially divided. No communications or very little communication between them. No one from the moon has traveled back to the mother planet. And the societies have developed completely different political systems. So on the Shevek's planet, Anaris, we have a communal, a communist, a utopian planet that seems to work well. No one owns anything. There are no possessions. They share everything. They share material things, but they also share ideas. And that can be stifling to a scientist who's developing, working on this system that will connect the galaxy through instant communication. His science is amazing. There's a little bit of science here, not super heavy, nothing too difficult for anyone to read, but basically, instead of sending signals between point A and point B, Shevek's idea is to kind of fold time so it's instantaneous. Space-time gets folded and messages are instant. So fascinating idea here, but Shevek has to escape from this planet essentially in order to further his scientific goals. And he has to travel back to the original mother planet. And that planet, uber materialistic, capitalistic. And we find out so many incredible ideas from Ursula K. Le Guin. I really felt like at the end of this book, I learned quite a bit. About the nuances of these political systems. What I liked about this book also is the fact that even though I expected Ursula K. Le Guin to be kind of heavy-handed with her ideas of what an ideal world might be, I felt there was a ton of nuance and the exploration of the pitfalls of this communist society, this leftist society, were also highlighted. So I thought it was balanced kind of approach. And because of that, I feel like I extracted a lot of value and learned quite a bit. So not only was it an interesting world building, an interesting protagonist, fantastic worlds, both of them quite different from one another, but also deductive. I just learned a lot from this book. I feel at the end of it, it's the type of book that I'm going to go back to. I'm going to learn a lot by subsequent rereads. And there is a ton of value here. Fabulous, fabulous. So both great books, two fantastic science fiction reads. But now stepping away a little bit from science fiction, this has been kind of the year of Kazuo Ishiguro for me. As you may or may not know, I've read Clara and the Sun on a buddy read with a couple of booktubers. We had a fantastic time. It was a great book to read together, to talk about. And that book really started me down the road of looking at Kazuo Ishiguro as an author from whom I have to read more of. I read his probably most famous book, Never Let Me Go, another science fiction book, of course, just like Clara and the Sun. I liked that book a lot. Not as much as Clara and the Sun, but I liked it. I just thought it was very dry. I felt removed from the storyline, whereas with Clara, I was connected. I was in that world. Then I read Remains of the Day, and that book blew me away. Of course, that book is not a science fiction book at all, and neither is The Buried Giant. This is a fantasy that takes place in the post-Arthurian world, England. Fantastically written again. I was immersed in this world. I was intrigued by what's going on. It does feel like a uniquely Kazuo Ishiguro type of fantasy, just like his science fiction books do not feel like a typical science fiction book. This does not feel like a typical fantasy book. I do recommend it to all the viewers who maybe do enjoy fantasy a little bit more than other genres. For me, of course, science fiction would be number one. But this book was intriguing. This book was interesting, beautifully written once again. Interesting story, lots of allegory, just a graceful kind of a philosophical read, just beautifully written. Kazuo Ishiguro is a unique author. I think everyone should give him a shot. Depending on which book you read, you may like him more or less because his books are different. I mean, Remains of the Day, the way it's written, has nothing to do with this book. The way this book is written has nothing to do with the way Never Let Me Go feels. And Never Let Me Go feels completely different to me than Clara and the Sun. So far, I have read 4 Ishiguro books, and I really, really enjoyed or loved each one of them. He is an author that has clearly shot up in my ranks, and now having read 4 of his books, and again, enjoying to a certain extent each one, I would say he is perhaps my, top 10 on the list of top 10 authors easily. So yeah, check out Ishiguro if you haven't. Leave a comment down below if you have read Ishiguro, which is your favorite book by him. I'm gonna read Pale View of the Hills probably, I don't know, maybe not this year. Maybe I'll take a little bit of a break. I think 4 Ishiguros in 1 year is enough, especially since he doesn't have that big a back catalog. I think he's only written like 8 or 9 books. Someone who has been also a revelation to me is Claire Keegan. I read 2 of her books this year. Small Things Like These, which is going to be a movie or a series. I'm not sure which, but coming out soon. And Foster by Claire Keegan. So this was the first book that I read, and Claire Keegan blew my mind here. Her writing is so beautiful, so original in the way she describes things. This book really packs a huge punch in a small package. Both of them do. I think I think these are the perfect books which quickly deliver a message, a feel of the story, of the setting in such a powerful way. How she can do this in such a short book is incredible. I mean, Stephen King has written a ton of books that I love. They're usually big books. I enjoy staying in that world for a long time. But with Claire Keegan, she can evoke the same feeling in a short story, basically, a novelette size book. I think they're fantastic. Foster specifically, I had tears in my eyes. I have kids. I have two girls. This is a story of a young girl, and this book was just incredible. It doesn't even make sense. They're so short. I don't want to get into anything that happens in these books. You have to pick them up and read them. This book is historically, I think, very important, and this one, just on a human level, connects so beautifully. Just freaking read these. I think they're amazing. They're quick reads. She is another author that I'll be looking out for. Anything she writes, I'll pick up because of the power of her writing. So 5 books I read, plus 5.5, because I think I'm gonna probably finish Stephen King's the Dark Tower series by the time the month is over. It's a long one with the Halloween coming up on the 31st. My birthday, October 30th, coming up soon. I'm gonna be 50. So this has been a fun week also for me. I did a few things. I got a ton of presents already from my family. It's been an amazing experience connecting with family and friends. I've been dreading this birthday, this 50. It feels like I'm old. Finally, when I hit 40, I really didn't think twice about it. It was fine. I thought I was in better shape than I was, in my 20s. So I was perfectly happy to turn 40. But 50, feels significant, and I have been thinking about that for the last few weeks. So anyway, but it's been great, and I'm looking forward to more videos connecting with you guys. So leave a comment down below. I have been away from BookTube a little bit last couple of weeks, just because there's been a lot going on and work has been busy. But I'm hoping to be able to put out videos a little bit more regularly. I'd love to get back to this 1 video per week minimum. That would be great. And yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing from you. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.